So the next question was about Facebook and social media in general.
All of it, all of it, all of it, all of it.
Do it,
Everything.
but don't post your original to Facebook. Make sure that you have it posted on a blog that you link to through Facebook. Facebook owns anything that you post to it directly, and you do not want to do that. So you don't want to serialize your work through Facebook. You want to provide links to an external site through Facebook.
And they kind of weasel back and forth as to that ownership thing. Like they keep saying, "Oh no, really, not really," and then they dig and they find that yes, really. And they say, "Oh no, 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 we'll change that, not really," and then it's like, "Well, actually, it's yes, really." So they'll keep playing the game, but maybe it's not something you want to change.
I'll say this about Facebook too, and I agree 100% about linking back to your original site for lots of reasons, including if you're hosting advertising on your site, that's a smart thing to do. One thing about Facebook and Twitter though that you have to keep in mind is that it's not broadcasting. It's not like when you have a blog and you're doing an RSS feed and people read it, or you publish and people get a newspaper. It's a conversation. I mean, it's kind of a cliche to say that, but if you are going to have a Facebook page, if you are going to be on Twitter, you also have to be very committed to engaging your fans that way, asking questions, getting some interaction, so that on a very technical level, the more comments you get on each post, the more likes you get, the more people will see it.
But it becomes a job, right? I mean, it kind of social media becomes its own job. Are there any other questions that?
As far as content, like what gets more readership, like pornographic versus non-pornographic, or what's the mix there?
Okay, so the question is about content in queer graphic novels and comics. Is pornographic material easier to sell, or other kinds of material?
Well, that's that. I can start off on that one. And one question is readership equivalent to sales? So I would think that perhaps the pornographic material gets distributed and spread around a little bit easier and seen more. But I don't know how that translates into readers directly.
And there's issues. I know that Steve and I both have had issues with stuff that goes down the middle, like Teleny to some degree, and the book The Mark of Aeacus to also similar degree, even more so, where it's not quite porn and it's not quite tame enough to not be porn, and it's hard to, your readership doesn't double. It kind of gets cut in half sometimes.
I think an argument could be made on both sides about how many more readers you may reach, and to a certain extent it's kind of marginal, and if you should do the thing that you're most interested in, and if you think, oh, I'm going to do porno work because that's going to get me more famous, like, that's not the way it works. It's a marginal market on both, no matter how you cut it, so do the things that you're interested in.
I will say that the kind of biggest selling queer graphic novels of all time, probably Fun Home by Alison Bechdel, which was Time Magazine's best novel of 2006. That probably outsold any queer erotic book, I would imagine. So the really big picture, if you're going to make something that kind of crosses over, it's not going to be porn.
I think the other thing to remember is that one of our books is probably harder to place than Steve's or Zant's. So there's a ton of bookstores that are closed to us that would be wide open as long as they're a little bit on the avant-garde side. So that is
Wieners.
a lot of details that isn't in there. So.
Except then I have erect wieners and depression, so my combination doesn't always.
Is it neurotica? Was that
Neurotica? Yeah, neurotica. No, someone said, I think they meant it as a compliment, that I have an uncanny ability to set up desire and then short circuit it. So it's like punishing. It's punishment. Yeah.
We have lots of spunk and penetration.
Yeah.
So that's story two.
But I will. Oh, go. Alex.
I just wanted to say that this particular question was something that was very relevant to me because those two other webcomics are very explicit, and my comic doesn't go any further than R-rated. I mean, it's a hard R, but it's just R-rated. And I was quite concerned that I might not get anywhere near the readership that these other comics were getting. I've only been out since March, so I have not been out as long as these other readers, but I will say I've been very pleased with the response. I'm still getting thousands of readers every day who are coming to the site. And the one thing I will add, other than in addition, that 100% you should write the comic that you want to write, because there's a good chance you might be the only person who reads it. And it's really getting your own work out that's a big pleasure of this. But I will say that if you choose to go more R-rated than X-rated. You get a lot more access to ad networks. I can have Project Wonderful on my site, and these other two sites got rejected for that. And you get access to PayPal, which I was giving for donations and other things if you're going to be online is very important.
One thing I will just kind of to wrap it up, just that one of the wonderful things about the comic book community is that it's extremely it's small and kind of insular, but it's also really supportive, and people are interested in talking. So if you have questions and concerns, I mean, definitely talk to people, establish relationships. Everyone here, most people here are pretty nice, actually. So and also, yeah. This one, not so sure about. And then queer publishers, and also I think the queer, as Tony can attest to, there's a kind of self-supportive, community within queer publishing. So
because we're not competing with each other, and
Yeah.
that's the wonderful thing about it is that we know that when one of us succeeds, it piques interest, and people start to say, well, what else is there? And that's been the most beautiful thing I've seen over the past 8 years of Prism Comics, is that even in the midst of difficulties with print and the economy and all this stuff, Prism sales at the Prism Comics booth, which has a collection of like hundreds and hundreds of books from different people, it's just gone up and up and up and up because people are discovering this stuff and hungry for it and they want to buy it. And the more there is, the better. So the better that I do, the better he does, etc., so on and so on. So.
A rising queer tide lifts all queer boats. So thank you, everybody, and thank you to the panelists. It's been fantastic, and please continue the conversation. So,
Thank you.